We all know someone who lost their fucking mind on that men's self-help, Andrew Tate, masculinity, YouTube self-help algorithm. If you don't...
You've journaled your trauma, woke up at 5 a.m., meditated, manifested, reparented your inner child, said your affirmations, repeated them again and again and again. But somehow you still feel broken, empty, like something's wrong with you for not feeling healed. This video is not another self-help tool. It's an autopsy, a breakdown of the psychological trap that's been sold to you as growth, and why the more you try to fix yourself, the worse you become. We're not here to blame you. You've been doing your best. But what if I told you that the self-help world, the books, the gurus, the endless morning routines, might be the very thing keeping you stuck? Because beneath the surface of healing culture is a disturbing truth. The more you consume self-help, the more you start to believe that you're fundamentally broken, and the industry needs you to stay that way. In the next few minutes, we're going to unravel the lie you were sold. We'll explore how your identity got hijacked by healing, why the self-help industry doesn't want you to arrive, and how to finally break the cycle. Let's start where it always begins, with the promise. The fantasy of becoming your best self, and the quiet self-hate hiding underneath it. The first lie is beautiful. It doesn't shout, it seduces. It tells you there's a better version of you out there, smarter, calmer, more focused, more attractive, less emotional, less you. And all you have to do is fix yourself enough to become them. It sounds like wisdom. It feels like hope, but underneath, it plants a seed that who you are right now is unacceptable. That's the entry point, the beginning of your transformation and your entrapment. You start reading the books. Maybe it's the law of attraction. Maybe it's atomic habits. Maybe it's shadow work. And at first it feels powerful. You feel in control, but subtly, something shifts. You start organizing your identity around being someone who needs to heal. You stop asking, what do I want? And start asking, what's wrong with me? That question becomes a lifestyle, a brand, a belief system, and soon healing becomes your entire personality. You can't just go for a walk. You're regulating your nervous system. You can't just feel sad. It must be your inner child. You can't relax, not until you finish fixing all the ways you're subconsciously sabotaging your life. You start treating your existence like a glitchy app that needs constant updates. You never feel done because you've bought into the idea that healing is a forever process. And they love that, because a person who's always healing is always consuming. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The self-help industry doesn't sell healing. It sells the need to heal. It gives you frameworks and words: toxic, high vibration, trauma response, limiting beliefs. And once you start speaking that language, you start seeing yourself as something fragile, something broken, something that always needs work. You confuse insight with identity. You turn your suffering into your story, and you believe that the only way out is through more fixing. But the thing is, you were never broken, not in the way they said. You were confused. You were scared. You were human. But someone convinced you that being human was a problem, and you believed them. Because they said it beautifully, wrapped it in mindfulness, productivity, and morning routines. And underneath it all was the same message: you are not enough yet. This is the lie you were sold, that healing is a ladder and you are always at the bottom. That peace is conditional. That who you are now is the problem and fixing yourself is the product. But what if the real healing is refusing to keep climbing? let's talk about the trap that comes next. The identity of the healing self, and why you're not stuck because you're broken. You're stuck because you've started to believe that healing is who you are. At first, healing felt empowering. You were finally doing something about your pain. It gave you language for what hurt and permission to feel it. But over time, the rituals became rules, the practices became pressure, and healing stopped being something you did. It became who you are. You became the person who journals every night, who always has a new insight to share, who is endlessly unpacking their patterns, the one who's working on themselves. And slowly, silently, you built an identity around being unfinished. Even your joy became suspicious. Moments of peace felt unearned. Because if you're not constantly improving, what are you? The truth is, this identity is comforting. It gives you a sense of control, of mission, of meaning. But it's still a cage. Because once you believe you are the one who heals, you subconsciously keep finding wounds. You stay in relationships that trigger you because they're lessons. You interpret anxiety as a sign you're not healed yet, not as a normal part of being alive. And in doing so, you trap yourself in a loop, not of pain, but of identity. You are not broken. You never were. But healing has become the lens through which you see yourself, so now you only see what needs fixing. The question is no longer, how do I heal? It's, who am I without this? Let's go deeper. Because the self-help world has one rule: never arrive. Here's the part no one says out loud. Self-help doesn't know what to do with a healed person. Because if you arrive, if you truly feel whole, calm enough, you stop scrolling, you stop buying, you stop needing, and that makes you useless to the machine. So the system is built to make arrival impossible. There's always another layer, another trauma, another mindset block, another book, coach, program, course, journal, retreat. There's always something else to fix. Even your peace is framed as a stage. Your confidence is a checkpoint. Everything is temporary because permanence doesn't sell. The fantasy of transformation keeps you moving, but the finish line keeps moving too. You're not healing anymore. You're looping. And if you ever do feel whole, even for a moment, you'll hear that voice. Don't get too comfortable. You're just spiritually bypassing. You still have work to do. Arrival becomes suspicious. Stillness feels like laziness. Joy feels like delusion. Because in the self-help world, enough is a threat. But what if healing isn't a destination? What if it's just remembering over and over again that you were never that far from yourself to begin with? What if the problem isn't that you haven't arrived, but that you were never allowed to? Let's look at who profits from this cycle. Because your suffering isn't just misunderstood, it's monetized. The moment healing became a market, your pain became a product, and the industry is brilliant. It doesn't just sell you solutions, it sells you the belief that you need them. And once you accept that belief, it never stops feeding you. Courses, retreats, trauma work, nervous system resets, inner child healing. It gives you new problems just to sell you new answers. The wellness influencer cries on camera, and at the end she offers you a 12-week transformation package. The self-help guru tells you they were broken too, and then invites you to join their $999 mentorship. You're not just being guided, you're being conditioned to see yourself as a lifelong customer. It's not evil, it's just business. But business has no interest in your peace, because peace doesn't convert. And so, healing is stretched, commercialized, turned into content, into clicks, into courses, not because they care about your growth, but because they care about your return rate. And here's the darkest part. Sometimes you feel worse after consuming this content, not because you're backsliding, but because their model needs you to stay dependent. You're not broken. But you are being kept in a cycle that depends on you believing you are. So the real question is this: what happens when you stop trying to heal? What's left when the noise fades? You were never meant to be a project, but somewhere along the way, you began to treat yourself like one, as if you were a checklist of traits to upgrade, as if happiness was a prize at the end of relentless self-correction. But here's a truth that self-help rarely says. You are not a problem to solve. You are a person to be experienced. And your pain? It doesn't always need a breakthrough. Sometimes it just needs space. Not everything uncomfortable is trauma. Not every quiet season is a sign you're regressing. Sometimes you're just human, messy, in process, changing, not broken. But when you believe you're always in need of fixing, you stop living. You start managing, regulating, optimizing, until even joy feels like a task to complete. But what if you didn't need to be high vibration all the time? What if your sadness wasn't a red flag, but a sign of your depth, your sensitivity, your capacity to care? What if you didn't need more tools, but fewer judgments? Because beneath the layers of fixing, healing, and striving, there's a quieter truth. You were never a malfunction. You were never off track. You were always just alive. This isn't the kind of healing they sell, but maybe it's the only kind that lasts. Let's talk about what healing actually looks like when no one's watching. Real healing doesn't look the way they show it online. It doesn't have aesthetic lighting or poetic captions. There's no soundtrack, no applause, no comment section, no dopamine spike for doing the right thing. Because real healing happens in the quiet, in the boring, in the deeply unshareable moments of your life. It's you choosing to get out of bed even when your chest is heavy. It's you sitting with a hard feeling instead of analyzing it. It's you texting someone back when everything in you wants to disappear. No journaling, no affirmations, just life. Mundane, sacred, messy life. Online healing has taught us that if it's not intense, it's not real. If it's not profound, it's not transformation. If you're not crying, shaking, purging something, you're doing it wrong. That's not healing, that's performance. Because healing isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just you cooking yourself a real meal, or letting your body rest without guilt, or laughing, really laughing for the first time in a while, and not wondering what part of you still needs fixing. Healing is not about arriving at perfection. It's about remembering your wholeness even on the days you feel scattered. And no one claps for that. No one reposts it. There are no before and after pictures for internal peace. But those moments, the ones with no audience, that's where it lives. Healing is you showing up again and again without needing to explain it to anyone, without turning it into content. It's not glamorous, but it's real. And real healing isn't addictive because it doesn't give you a new identity. It gives you your original self back. And here's the most radical truth of all. You don't have to earn your way back to yourself. You never left. Maybe healing was never supposed to be this loud. Maybe you're not lost. Maybe you're just remembering. For years, you chased healing like it was a finish line, like it was something to achieve, something to add to your list. But what if the chase itself is what's keeping you stuck? Self-help teaches us to fix, to solve, to upgrade. But real life isn't a problem to be solved. It's a mystery to be lived. Stop measuring your worth by how many sessions, books, or routines you've completed. Stop trying to rewrite your story before you've even lived it. Instead, try this. Start living with all your messy contradictions, your unanswered questions, and your quiet doubts. Living means feeling the pain without running from it. It means embracing your fears and your flaws, not as enemies, but as part of your humanity. It means saying yes to the small moments, a genuine smile, a deep breath, a walk outside, and knowing that those moments are enough. When you stop chasing healing, you create space. Space for peace. Space for joy. Space for you. You'll realize healing isn't a destination you arrive at someday. It's a way of being, a practice of presence, a daily choice to accept yourself exactly as you are. And that acceptance is freedom. So, what if the real goal wasn't to fix yourself? What if the real goal was to show up for your life? Right now, right here, with courage, compassion, and curiosity.
This isn't about perfection. It's about presence. And presence is the truest form of healing there is. The truth is simple, yet hard to accept. The more you try to fix yourself, the more you risk losing sight of who you already are. Self-help often traps you in a loop, a cycle of chasing, striving, and never arriving. It convinces you that you're broken, that you need to keep healing, that you're a project to be perfected. But healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering the person you already are, whole, imperfect, and enough. True healing happens quietly, in the everyday moments when you stop trying so hard and simply be. So, if you feel exhausted by the self-help grind, if you're tired of the endless pursuit of betterment that leaves you feeling worse, it's okay to stop. It's okay to rest. It's okay to live your life on your own terms, without a roadmap, without pressure, without constant fixes. Because you are not broken. You are not a problem. You are human. And that is more than enough. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to breathe, subscribe for more videos that challenge the noise and help you find your quiet truth. And share this video with someone who needs to hear this today. Healing isn't a product, it's a practice. And it starts with you, right now,